Welcome back to The Merge, the wrestling guide for Jiu Jitsu, powered by FUJI Sports. So today is The Merge's first Q&A episode. I had subscribers emailing questions, and I'm choosing a few of them. I'm going to answer them right here on this episode. Stick around to the end of this episode where I will release the 3 names of the 3 subscribers that are winning the free FUJI Sports t-shirt. All right, so our first question, Joshua Morgan from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. How would I counter a deep double leg takedown once my opponent reaches the hips? All right, Joshua, so after you watch this episode, I recommend going back and watching episode 21. That episode is specific to if your opponent gets a deep double leg on you, but I'm gonna show you something else here. So we're gonna go through 2 things. So let's say our opponent gets on a double leg here, right? They're nice and deep. It's hard to sprawl from here sometimes, right? Especially when they're controlling the hips nice and tight. So the first thing I'm gonna go over is a crossface, but I'm gonna go into a little bit more detail on the crossface. So first off, you know, some people when they crossface, they just kind of put like the nook of their elbow here or the forearm part right into their face here. And as you pull it forward, right, it can pull the guy's neck back and actually get his neck not in good position and put it into bad position, but most guys can kind of eat this and take that, okay? So when I crossface, I like to use like the knife part of like my thumb and my wrist. I'm gonna put it right under the guy's nose from here, right? And I'm gonna lift it up forward and turn it into the middle, like to my left, this side. So look, I'm pulling it forward, across, and to the side. Sprawl, I can start working my anacondas and guillotine chokes, but the biggest thing with this is the positioning with my wrist, right? I'm not coming here, right? A lot of guys can just drive up and still finish through this elbow and just take that short-term pain. This hurts a lot more, and it's a lot more effective because I have more range of motion pushing my wrist this way than just going like that with my elbow. So one more time, he's holding on tight. I'll get my wrist right under the nose, and I'm pulling it forward to the side, and now I can sprawl. The second thing I'm going to show you is a crotch lock roll, right? So let's say one more time, he gets in on the double leg, boom, right? I'm going to essentially throw my weight forward, and I'm doing what's called a crotch lock. My right arm is going to go underneath, kind of like a tight waist around this side. My left arm is going to swing behind his hamstring from here, and I'm going to clasp my hands underneath, okay? Once I clasp my hands underneath, I'm going to explain a few things. Look, I'm here, okay? And initially, when I start rolling for the crotch lock, or before that, if he pushes into me with his feet, look, he has the ground to use against to push into me, okay? I'm essentially going to take the ground away from him, okay? And what I'm going to do, or how I'm going to do that is I'm going to roll. When I roll to my back, he's going to be upside down. He no longer can use the ground to push off of, and that's when he's going to only have to rely on his arm strength from here. So once I do that, look, I start rolling. Once we're right here, look, I'm just going to straighten my legs. My legs are going to be stronger than my opponent's arms. So I straighten, keep rolling, and then as we come back up, look, he's sprawled out, and he's not in such a tight double leg anymore, okay? So one more time. He gets in on a double leg from here. I'm going to sprawl, crotch lock, okay? As I roll, I'm going to straighten my legs out straight and keep rolling. So look, he's in a tight double leg position from here around my thighs, control my hips. Rolling through. Now he's in a nice sprawl from here, and I can start pulling up on the elbows, continue my sprawl. This question is from Darion Mortley from Anne Arundel County, Maryland. Can I see how you do the inside trip to defend the Russian tie? So my opponent has me in a Russian tie from here. One thing I like to do is I like to re-Russian them, okay? So my forearm from here will grab their far elbow, and my right leg takes a big step forward, and I'm essentially pulling their elbow and their forearm to my chest, and I'm going to re-Russian them. So look, big step here, okay? But especially when you go against someone that's a little bit more advanced, or they feel it coming, they'll start circling away from you. So they have the Russian tie from here. And look, I'll even do it slow at first. As I'm reaching and I'm going to step, look, they start circling away, see? And then we kind of get into this like little circular fight here, okay? So if I can't get the re-Russian from there, as they're circling away, this leg is opening up, right? Because it's stepping this way. So then I like to take a deep step, that little shuffle step, and I'll actually inside trip that side. So as I'm reaching and they start circling away, I'll move my weight forward. I'll just step that leg through and inside trip. This arm can just push against their stomach, because if you see my last inside trip video, I talk about going down to a double leg from there or keeping the overhook if you have an overhook. We don't have that at this moment, right? So we're gonna have to just settle, and at that point, we're just gonna keep the elbow there. So look, they're rushing, I grab the elbow, circle, circle, inside trip. All right, so our next question, these are 2 questions that I'm going to consolidate because they're really hitting the same topic. So we have Dominick from Cleveland, Ohio, and his question was, When setting up a takedown, either single or double leg, how do you avoid or maintain proper distance from your opponent so you don't get guillotined or front headlocked? And then Ben Hoffmeister from Grand Rapids, Michigan wants to see, can you do a video on shooting for a double leg or a single leg to avoid the guillotine? All right, so to answer the first part of the question around just avoiding a specific distance or having a proper distance, distance doesn't really play a factor. It's more about your proper head positioning, right? Because if I'm far away from my opponent here in a stance, right, there's no way he's going to guillotine me right now from here. If I'm close though, this is guillotine range, really, but end of the day, if I have proper head positioning and a strong neck, it's going to be harder for him to guillotine, rather if my neck is down like this, right? So just talking about avoiding a guillotine altogether, all right? I like to stick with takedowns that are having my head kind of in his chest or stomach area, not to the outside here. If my head's ever outside, which is more like a specific kind of double leg or a high crotch or an outside single maybe, that gives the guy an opportunity to wrap my head up in a guillotine. And even though there's ways to defend it, I like to avoid those completely. So if you're looking to avoid guillotines completely, I would really recommend like sweep singles, which have the head on the inside from here, right? So let's say my opponent and I are tied up from here. I take a shuffle step, right? Sweep up, and now look, my head's on the inside. I keep a nice strong neck, strong base. If he tries to move my head to the outside, look, I don't let him. It stays in the middle, okay? He's not gonna be able to guillotine me from here, okay? So I would stick to more single legs that require your head to stay in the middle so you're not in that guillotine zone. Now, when it comes to a double leg, which I want up getting into, I try and really stick to a blast double, because the blast double is right, your head's burying right in the guy's chest, okay? Once again, you're not going to be in a guillotine zone from there. So look, if I just change my level from here and my head's right in the middle, once again, he's not in a guillotine zone. So the sweep single or a single leg that requires your head on the inside and a blast double leg are highly recommended because it's not going to have your head in guillotine range. So the second part of this is going to be around, at some point you have to accept and understand if you do take a shot and you have your head to the outside, your partner's going to be able, or your opponent's going to be able to wrap your head up in some sort of guillotine, right? And I'm going like this because sometimes it's not really a threat. So look, let's say my opponent takes a double leg on me from here. Look, even without me moving or defending, my arm is by his neck, right? So all I really have to do is this, and all of a sudden becomes a threat to you. That's like 0.01% effort to do that, okay? It's not a big movement. So naturally, when you take a shot that keeps your head on the outside, it's very easy for someone to make you feel threatened with a guillotine. The secret behind it is you can't let them get into, besides having good neck and head positioning, you can't let them get into like that kill zone or the proper body positioning to finish the guillotine. So like I said, understand and accept that your head will get wrapped at some point. Not with all shots, but some when you're shooting a takedown that requires your head on the outside. But you have to keep your partner or your opponent away from getting into good position to finish it. What I mean by that is, so when we shoot a double leg from here, even if he does wrap my neck up in a guillotine, right? And I go to finish, I have to finish fast, but look, my neck isn't down. If my head and neck is down, it's easier for him to even sprawl his legs out and start searching for a guillotine from here, okay? My neck is up, nice and strong, and my back's in good position from here. And look, when I finish, I'm gonna finish to the weak side and the wrong side to the guillotine. So let's say I take my step up, look, I finish, I'm finishing on this side. No matter how tight he holds his guillotine from here, he's not gonna be able to finish it, okay? I'm in the side control now, and I can start popping up the grip and working that out. If my partner takes a double leg, let's say he takes a double leg from here, and I wrap his neck up in a guillotine, now if you start finishing towards the guillotine or you just drive straight backwards, yeah, then you're gonna be in a spot where now your neck's wrapped up and you're getting choked. So you have to remember, if your neck is to get wrapped up and you are in a guillotine, get yourself to a position where your partner or your opponent doesn't have the proper body position to finish the guillotine. All right, our next question is from Steph from San Diego, California. How can you reestablish an offensive position when you put in a whizzer and you're hip to hip? All right, so I reached out to Steph. I got more clarity on this position just to make sure it was what I thought it was. She's talking about specifically, one example when we get in that dogfight position in Jiu Jitsu, right? So we'd be trying to pass half guard, for example, and this happens a lot where our opponent beats us with this pummel, and then they start coming up, right? And they come up to their knees, and we get in this side-to-side dogfight position. They're pinching this leg. I have the whizzer in. They have the underhook across my back from here. And, wrestling, this can easily turn into, a 7-second stalemate, but Jiu Jitsu, obviously no stalemate, so we could be here for a long time, and it's kind of this constant battle of us trying to like uchimata up or push him back down to the half guard. They may try and roll through a couple times. So to get into an offensive position from here, end of the day, you have to get this leg out. If you're not going to uchimata, what I mean by that is like lifting this leg up and like whizzering this up to try and get them back down to their side, right? Like that. But then you're going to be back in half guard. So what I like to do is I have to try and get this leg freed out, okay? And in a previous merge episode, I went through this kind of from neutral or standing when our opponent has a single leg and we use the whizzer to open up their leg and get our leg out. It's kind of the same concept. So as I whizzer this down forward and push him to the side, let's say he doesn't let go of this pinch. He's just going to continuously fall back to that half guard position. So watch here. And then we're back here, right? And he comes back up. We're back in this dogfight again. So when he does open up that leg to balance, let's say I hip in, I like to like knee slide out. And look, I slide to a front headlock position, and now I can start working my chokes, slide through, maybe finish a guillotine. But you have to get that leg out. So one more time, we're here. I'm going to try and whizzer like I keep saying, like that whizzer throw, uchimata. Lift this leg up, try and get him down to his hip again. When he opens that leg up to balance, look, even here, it's a little open now. I slide that knee through, and I come to a front headlock. I can start working my chokes. All right, so Steph, the second thing I'm going to show, this is a little bit more advanced, but we're in the same position, okay? And essentially, I'm going to do something called what I like to call a hip over or a hip slinky, which is throwing our weight to one side, a majority of our weight, I'd say 90, 10, 80, 20, and it's going to kind of force our opponent to flip to that side as well, slowly. So the way I do this is like this, right? Once again, this leg's got to come out. So let's say you do get this leg out, you hip in, he opens that leg, and I maybe even just slide it out a little bit, and we're kind of hip to hip here. We could easily go back to that front headlock position, but I'm basically going to jump my legs over his back from here, right? And we can go over other stuff here if you want like to throw in a hook and stuff like that. But this one I really like because it gets you right to side control. So when I jump, I'm not going to jump over their hips, okay? Their hips are very strong. If he even starts lifting his hips up as my body's over them, I can get thrown over this way. So he's not going to do it too much. But look, if I'm on his hips, again, he starts pushing in, right? I may actually get hipped over and land on my back from here. And then he's on top of me. So my arm is already overhooked. I'm controlling this arm. My hips are going to go over the shoulders this way, okay? And when I jump, watch, it's just sliding through the back. So here, and it's pulling over the shoulder. Now, one more time, you don't have to let go of the whizzer. Sometimes I do. It really is situational, I'd say. But once again, just make sure you're not going over the hips. The hips are very strong. This is a weak zone. I'm pulling him over his own shoulders. It's very awkward. It's kind of peeling back from his right pec and his shoulder this way. So look, I'm jumping over here. Our next question is from Andrew Yaden from Providence, Rhode Island. And this question is, even when I feel like I get a good setup on a shot, I get sprawled on, mostly against bigger and stronger opponents, and then I have trouble recovering, or I end up in a front headlock or turtle. What are some tips? All right, so Andrew, I think one thing that you have to start looking at is, so there's obviously setups to takedowns, right? I mean, first level, you have just a takedown, right? You can shoot a single, you can shoot a double. Most folks may see it coming from a mile away, so you have to then introduce a setup. And a setup is to throw your opponent off, so then you create a better opening to get that shot. I'd say the next level above that is having a setup for your setup or misdirectional. And like a misdirectional shot, for example, is getting your opponent thinking you're going one way and then you're going the other. And this not only fools your opponent, but it actually puts their body in a advantageous position for you to attack the other side. So one I used to use a lot in college wrestling, if we're talking about like a low single or a Smith single, was I would actually fake this side here, knowing they're going to pull the leg back. And as they pull that leg back, I'm really going for that one. So I do like a really good fake though. You can't just kind of like go like this. You got to really sell the fact you're going to attack that foot. So let's say we're moving around from here. I go for a low single that side, and I'm switching to the opposite side, right? Circling, finishing it down. Other examples of misdirectional shots, right? Like Zahid Valencia's got a really nasty fake one duck, go to the other side with a duck under. So he'll be here with like an underhook, and he'll grab this wrist from here, and he fakes a single to this side. Like he'll pull this arm up, fake the single hard to that side, and as they react, and maybe even try and sprawl to this side, he's ducking under this side. So misdirectional, right? He's gonna go like this, here, and duck to the opposite side. Same thing with like a sweep single to a duck or a sweep single to a high crotch I like to do. So let's say we're turned this way. I got inside control. I can fake a single to this side, but once again, look, I gotta sell it, right? A lot of things with misdirectional and setups in wrestling, and is really selling the setup and selling the fake. You can't just go like this. Like high-level folks are not gonna fall for that, okay? I gotta really like the whole motion of my body, like I'm selling it, right? And when he pulls that leg back, watch here, and I'm already in position to start attacking the high crotch on the other side. So you gotta start looking at misdirectionals and setups for your setups. So to answer the second part of your first question, if your opponent is sprawling on you and you're finding yourself in a front headlock, a guillotine, or you're kind of just turtling up to make sure you're not getting guillotined, I'm gonna go through one or two things quick right now, but everyone's gonna hear for the first time right now. In March, the merge is focusing on all those positions. So March is dedicated around getting out of that really bad position of being sprawled on or being in a front headlock. But just to go through two quick things, you gotta start looking at an alternative or a contingency plan or a backup plan if they do sprawl. It can't just be hanging on. So let's say, for example, if I shoot a double leg, right, and they want up sprawling on my double leg, right, and we're here, you gotta start looking to like knee slides, for example, right? Knee slide gets me back into good position. So instead of being sprawled out from here and being really heavy, especially if your opponents are bigger than you, which you said your issue was, you can step up with the outside leg, slide your middle knee in. And look, I'm realigning my hips now so I can finish, okay? Single leg, for example, if I take a single leg on my opponent and he sprawls, let's say he sprawls, boom, yep. One thing I can look at, look, I can let go of this hand from here. This hand's gonna like wrap around his shin, so he can't circle this way now. Look, I'm just circling around to the back, getting my knee behind his leg from here. I can look at grabbing the ankle and the thigh from here. My leg's gonna be that shelf, pull the ankle up to the shelf, switching hands, grabbing the opposite leg from here, circling around to finish the shot. So you have to be equipped, and you have to understand when you get into that sprawl position, it makes it worse just hanging on. It's kind of like quicksand. You have to look at an alternative plan. Our last question is from Hunter Ferris from Flushing, New York. How do you effectively use the Granby roll in Jiu Jitsu? When we do a Granby roll, there's multiple ways to do a Granby roll, but I think the initial one we learn is really just over like the shoulder to shoulder roll, okay? And that just looks something like this, right? We're coming up, we're dropping this arm underneath, right? I'm just rolling shoulder to shoulder. Now, when I Granby, I started changing that, and I like to actually shift my hips around as I roll. So it's almost like a forward roll with a little hip shift this way. And the reason I started doing that is because when I Granby roll, some guys are really good at following you still and following your back. So I will actually move my hips away from them. And if they can't control my hips, they really can't control me anymore if they're trying to control my hips from behind. So when I roll, I'll do it, let's say I'm gonna use this straight line here for an example. When I roll, I'm gonna do a forward roll, and then my legs are gonna twist midway, so I'll do it slow. So the big difference, look, shoulder to shoulder Granby. My back's still facing one way, right? The other way, I'm kind of evading my hips away from him. Okay, so now I bring in a partner from here. Let's say I'm in turtle. And first off, when he's trying to get that seatbelt grip, I already have my elbows in, right? And this one I'm not letting in, because if this arm comes over, right, it doesn't really mean much, because he needs to get underneath this left arm to actually make that seatbelt. So I'm always fighting these hands. Now let's say I just do the normal Granby roll, okay? I'm gonna come out like this. Look, my hips are like this, aligned with his. I'm gonna come out to the side a little bit, so my hips and my butt are exposed. And I'm gonna Granby, the normal Granby, over his elbow from here. So look, tuck, I'm out, okay? But, like I mentioned earlier, some guys are really agile, really athletic. They can almost post in their head and follow you with the Granby roll. So, let's say I go to do that again, and my partner's gonna follow me, okay? So look, I'm here, turtled, I go to Granby, and now we're here, right? He followed me. So that's when I like to switch the hips, right? I'll do it slow first. So I'm gonna do more of a forward roll, rather a Granby roll, okay? So as I go to turn, right? Look, I'm forward rolling, and then watch, as I roll, look, my hips are shifting away. And if you can see, I'm gonna turn here. My left arm is coming up and it's blocking him from spinning behind me, and I can turn and face him. All right, so one more time. So we're here, I'm gonna shift my hips out, expose my hips, and look, I'm gonna do the forward roll, twist my hips midway. Here, so one more time, it really disconnects your hips from your opponent, okay? It makes it a lot different and difficult for your opponent when you roll that way. Like I said, the other way, your back is still facing the same way. It's easy, as you saw my opponent do before, they cartwheel with you. But when you swing your hips, they have to follow you at that angle, and it's very hard. So I would start drilling. You could drill normal Granby rolls like this, here. And then drill the other roll as well. So rolling forward, switch the hips. The point is just to evade your hips from your opponent as you roll. Thanks for tuning in to the first Q&A episode on the merge. I had a blast answering all your questions. We're definitely going to do another Q&A episode in the future. So if you want to partake in that or other special episodes, you got to subscribe. Head over to themergeonline.com and you can subscribe for free. Now, getting to the free FUJI Sports t-shirts giveaway, we have 3 winners. We have Tommy Brown of Norman, Oklahoma. We have Jay Chung of Omaha, Nebraska. And we have Richard Torres of New York, New York. Congratulations on the free shirts. You're going to get an email from FUJI Sports and I on next steps regarding that. So, guys, tune in next Friday. The month of March, we're going to be dedicating this to getting stuck underneath your opponent. If it's either a failed shot, a front headlock, if they sprawl on a shot, double leg, single leg, and it's going to be getting yourself out of those bad positions. So, a lot of times, these are questions I get all the time from students on how to get out of those bad positions, how to recover from bad shots and front headlocks. That's going to be the focus in March. I'll see you guys next Friday.